Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests, with host Christina Nichman.
Savvy Central Radio is proud to present a live interactive series featuring a new mix to business networking and interviews. Our first event will take place Saturday, April 18th from 12 noon to 3 p.m. You'll not want to miss our first guest, Bryn Johnson. Our interview question portion of the event will be concluded by a business networking gathering of light fare and cocktails, where you'll be able to meet new and exciting like-minded business owners like yourself. To find out more, book your free ticket today at bit.ly/savvyevent. That's bit.ly/savvyevent. Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week on Savvy, we host successful individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their dreams, stories, wisdom, and lessons learned in their field of business. Our guest today is the beautiful, talented Dorothy Bishop, an internationally renowned singer and world-class entertainer with her own hilarious brand of Diva. A Yale-trained soprano, Dorothy's incredible, versatile, and outrageous sense of humor landed her as the finalist on America's Got Talent Season 4. She headlines events all over the world, including soloist at Carnegie Hall with the New York Pops, first Broadway National Tour of Masterclass, starring Faye Dunaway, and her own headline act, Viva la Diva, on the world's top luxury liners, including Queen Mary II, Royal Caribbean, and Regent Seven Seas. Dorothy now has her own weekly New York City nightclub act called the Dozen Divas Show. To find out more about Dorothy and her upcoming shows, visit DorothyBishop.com. Hi, Dorothy. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I'm good, Christina. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you could come on out here. You were nominated for the MAC Award this evening.
The 26th.
Yeah, awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and everyone, you must go check out Dorothy. She's performing right now. She has the Dozen Divas live at the Metropolitan Room in New York City. So anyone in the metropolitan area, you must go see her. I would love to hear your story. How did you come to the world of musical comedy and becoming an entertainer?
Well, I've had a lot of reinventing myself. I'm actually a classically trained opera singer from Yale. Mm-hmm. And I came to New York City wanting to sing at the Met, at Lincoln Center, and have an international career as an opera singer. And I did some really wonderful gigs. I sang at Carnegie Hall for Mayor Giuliani. Actually, we did the Act One of La Boheme for him. I toured in the first Broadway National of Masterclass, starring Faye Dunaway. Mm-hmm. That's a play by Terrence McNally about Maria Callas. And so I did some really big gigs, but I wasn't working constantly as an opera singer. And I was always doing comedy. I've always been good at it. I was always getting cast in a lot of comic opera. And so I just out of frustration, I started auditioning for Broadway and musical theater. But then I just built my own show because I wanted control of my career, and the show sold. So I started working full time as an entertainer. It was actually a different show. Mm-hmm. There's actually been several different shows that I've sold, but the first one was kind of a pop opera. It was more of the disco opera stuff that was really in vogue about 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. Kind of like Sarah Brightman.
Yeah.
But then I started putting comedy in it because I enjoy comedy so much, and it just became my own thing. And I worked full time on the international cruise ships all over the world as a guest entertainer. So I would just go on, meet with the band, put my show up, sometimes in these incredible theaters, because some of these bigger ships are like a Broadway theater. They're amazing. And then I did some of the small luxury liners. I think I did pretty much everyone except for Carnival, I think is the only ship I didn't play. Up until about 2 years ago, that's what I was doing. But alongside of that, I was also singing in the clubs in New York City. Mm-hmm. And especially with my dance opera stuff, I used to play Splash a lot, which was a famous gay club, one of the last of the big discos. Mm-hmm. It closed about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, end of an era.
So cool to hear that you uniquely made a career for yourself in your own niche and created your own niche. It's funny, girl, I never told you this, but in my teens, I loved opera. I was probably the only few teenagers out there that loved opera. I went to the Met during my birthday and other special occasions when I could get tickets. And I remember wanting to get with this really cool voice coach at the time and get her to train me because my dream was to perform at the Met. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and as a teen, I thought, no worries, sure, piece of cake. I'll just practice and get into the Met. And I wasn't that good of a singer, but like a lot of people who end up on Idol, American Idol or something, they think they're fabulous. So I get in front of this woman and she's like, I can't train you.
Really? Wow. Well, you know what? That happened to me too, but I just kind of gave him the finger and kept going.
Good for you, girl.
I was very determined, but my voice bloomed very late. So my opera career was interesting, but I was always kind of behind everybody else. And then I would come into my own a couple years later. And now I feel like, I know my voice, but it took me a long time to train.
Can I ask you, for anyone out there who might be inspiring to be a singer or an entertainer, is it something that's trainable to become an opera singer or a singer, or is it something you pretty much have to be born with? I mean, what do you think on that?
I think it's both. I think the ones that get there faster are the ones that are just born with it. But I have seen people just literally build voices. I mean, you have to have the ear. You have to be able to hear music and match the tone. And to a certain degree, you have to have the instrument. But I know from my own experience, if you get with the right teachers and you train and you work hard, you will be the best that you can be. Mm-hmm. And I got pretty far, even though I like you, I don't know. I think my voice was good enough to sing at the Met, but chips just didn't fall that way. And I was impatient. I was getting older and I just wanted to work and I wanted to be an artist and I was willing to look at a different door. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of competition out there. And what's really neat is that you actually created your absolute perfect niche for you that just suits you perfectly and draws people to you because you're an awesome entertainer. So what propels you to go forward and your greatest passion and why that propels you forward in doing what you do every day?
What I miss being an opera singer, what that I have now is a real fun, funny, impulsive connection with the audience. It's my show. And this particular show I've done in smaller venues, but it's improv comedy a lot of the time because things happen. I'm in clubs, people drop glasses, people get drunk, people talk back because I'm impersonating these iconic divas and it's funny. And depending on where, what venue I'm in, Metropolitan Room, they generally behave, but so have taken it out on the road and some people yell back or say things, or I do Joan Rivers and people start heckling. So I think what I love is having to be really light on my feet and quick and in the moment. And I love, what really inspires me is making people laugh. And I would say secondly is making people have a little nostalgia because like I sing Stevie Nicks, I do a really funny medley of 3 of her top songs, but in the middle I insert the song Landslide, which most people know and maybe the really young ones don't, but it's a pretty profound song. And depending on the audience, sometimes I just stand and sing it like Stevie and I can see that people are really into it and having a moment, especially if they're around my age when Fleetwood Mac was what we grew up with. Yeah. Those are magical moments and it keeps me going, keeps me very inspired. I love it when I feel like people are being taken away from their problems and are just having a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everyone can do comedy. I've been part of a class where we had to do a little improv and I mean, it really gets you outside your skin. There's no such thing as not being vulnerable or getting out your skin. And
very true. No, I was going to say comedy is the hardest. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say not everyone can do it. I mean, especially if you're a super shy person, it's really, really cool. And this class was especially good because it was actually in college and it would really helped a lot of shy people get outside their skin and just be able to speak their own thoughts and their own words. But yeah, it's really not easy. So that you're able to do that and do it well, you've totally found a niche that's totally all your own.
Thank you. I always feel like I'm jumping off a cliff, though. I'm like, I mean, I'm a shy person as well, and it sometimes I think the biggest lesson I've learned, and I still want to take some comedy classes. It's on my list, but as just when the person does spill the glass in front of you, or is drunk, or the waiter knocks over the trays, unlike if you were in a play or an opera, you would ignore it. But in a comedy room or a cabaret, you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
That makes everybody calm down and sigh of relief that you acknowledged it. And then if you can spin it and make it funny, that's great. But sometimes it just is what it is, and you just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
That's funny in itself, you know?
Yeah. And I was about to ask you, along your journey, has there been any great challenges that you had to overcome? Now, you mentioned that sometimes people will heckle you or you'll get stuff from the audience. Has there ever been a time where it was really a difficult call, like you had to respond to something that was a little difficult or challenging?
Well, I mean, you know what? On my last show, I did Gaga and Madonna. Which I don't do those two together. Madonna's the one that I usually do. But there were some Madonna haters in the audience. And so I was doing Madonna, and I was kind of parodying that she had fallen at the Brit Awards. You know, she fell backwards down the stairs. And so I had a neck brace on, and I can't remember. And I started talking, and they just started yelling at me and like calling me names. And I was like, whoa, oh, you know, I can tell there's Gaga Gaga people here or whatever. I was like, haters. They were angry, and they actually left the show. Wow. They sat to the end of the show, but they didn't talk to me or anything. They like stormed out. Wow. Yeah. And I can't even remember what I said. There's a video of it. I'll have to look, but I think I called them haters and told them to shut up. Or I tried to say what Madonna would say, you know? Yeah. Without going into too many 4-letter words.
Yeah. That is nutter. I went a long, long time ago to see this guy perform. He was in his 80s. He used to be an amazing opera singer, and I was psyched to hear him sing. And oh my gosh, I mean, over 80-something years old, your voice is not quite what it was at 20. He was pretty horrible, actually. Aww. But here's the awful part, Dorothy. People brought vegetables, tomatoes, and threw it at him. And I was like, I was horrified. I could not believe that people were actually throwing stuff at him.
Was this in New York?
Yeah, it was in New York.
Was it in Little Italy or something? Because that's a great Italian too.
No, actually, I think it was Avery Fisher Hall. I mean, I was in my 20s, so this was a long time ago, over 25 years ago. But I was totally floored and shocked, and I kept going, bravo, trying to
Oh, no. I can't believe people threw vegetables. Wow. They don't, I don't think they would. I think security would be called in nowadays.
Thank God.
But that's very Italian, especially Southern Italy.
Oh,
they'll start throwing, they'll yell and boo and throw things. And, right, if they don't like your first note. And they're very mean to Americans. And if your Italian isn't perfect, get booed off the stage. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There are many stories.
Well, have you performed in Milan?
No, I never sang in Italy. I mean, I've been to Italy many times. I think I've sung in a couple piano bars in Italy, but I never professionally sang there.
Yeah, well, that's a little scary there. I'll remember that if I ever go to watch an opera there in Milan.
Yeah, if you go to Palermo or somewhere down south, to one of the small houses.
Oh, okay, so it's not the big.
They're pretty raucous. Well, no, they'll boo it in the big houses too. They will.
Wow.
Yeah, the Italians will boo. A lot of times the singers react. I mean, if you just Google it, you'll see. I can't think of anybody right now. My mind's a blank. But very recently, like 2 years ago, there was a tenor. I think it was Roberto Alagna, and I believe he flipped him off and, yelling back. And I know Renato Scotto would always just flip him off, give him the finger.
Nutters. Well, they make themselves very well.
Passion. It's passion.
Yeah, passion. A lot of passion in there. Well, for anyone out there thinking of becoming a opera singer or a career in entertainment, what would be your advice to them?
Wow. Well, I would say I think a college degree is important to have, but you're not going to learn what you need to learn to have a professional career in most colleges. That's what I find lacking in academia. No one really teaches you how to market yourself. They don't even really do much of how to audition. They just kind of, make you take book classes and languages. Well, I'm talking about opera, but even theater, there's a lot of history and practical stuff, or I should say impractical stuff. And then you get out there and you suddenly have to know how to woo an agent. Now it's all social media, right? Definitely changed.
Yeah.
How to build your own show, how to do a showcase, how to get your equity card. And that kind of stuff for me, now I'm a lot older, but I did not learn any of that in college. And I did pretty much, I had a good steady technique when I got out and I knew languages. So that was helpful from Yale. And I worked with some of the best coaches in the world at Yale. So I did have a world-class education, but I still, when I came to New York, I did not know anything. It was just like, boom. I think if someone's really serious about a career in the arts and entertainment, they have to come to one of the big cities. For the United States, I would say it's either New York or LA, if you're really serious about it. And then if you're more serious about music and theater, I'd say New York. If you're more serious about television and film, LA. But there's a little bit of both in both cities. So I've seen people make it work.
Yeah.
And then you just we are a youth-oriented society. I do think more doors are open when you're young. So that's when I say jump and take the biggest risks and do that tour of Europe or Broadway National Tour, whatever you can get. Yeah. You just go from there. I mean, I have had a very funky career. It is not a streamlined career. It would look like it was going in one direction, and then all of a sudden it would go in another. And then I thought I was going to be on cruise ships for the rest of my life, but I got kind of burnt out on that. And so I built a new show, and who knows? I don't know where it's going. I'd like to get a little more commercial with it. I'm trying to figure out some characters that might be a little more commercial so that I could, make better money.
Now commercials.
As in commercials.
Got it.
Or a spokesperson for a product, or, I'm trying to kind of open my view a little more. Yeah. But I do love my show, but they are really, once you get out of cruise ships, there's some club work, but there's not a whole lot of money in the cabaret world. You do it because you love it, and sometimes you make money and sometimes you don't, but it is not the most profitable. Opera was actually more profitable when I worked. Wow. And then the cruise ships were great. That was great, steady money.
Well, it's a lot there. I mean, I chose not to go into that profession, but really, is it important? Do you need an agent to get going? Because I don't know. Is it, if someone comes here and they want to get started, do they really need an agent, or can they wing it themselves and get deals?
I think both. I think it's good to have an agent. I've been signed exclusively, I think, twice, but usually I was freelancing. So I had a couple different agents working for me, as well as me working for myself. I am terrible at cold calling. I am the worst. I have friends, especially in the lookalike industry, I can get work. I have friends that do it all the time. They do it full time. And they're just like, Dorothy, you just have to get on the phone and act like an agent and call and call and call. I'm terrible at it. Yeah. So I'm trying to get better at it, but it's just, it freaks me out. I don't like it. I think that's where the shy thing, shyness gets it. I was better at it when I was younger. I do have a long list right sitting next to me of theaters that I'm supposed to call. But, agents too, it is good to have an agent, because when you book things yourself, you realize, I've already had like 10 phone calls and emails back and forth about a gig for in 2016. That's actually nice money. But the amounts of emailing and calling that I've done already, I'm like, oh, and it's still not finalized. Yeah. I'm like, this is when I miss having an agent, because they would just do all this. And
hey, if you can get someone to hire it out for, most definitely. Now, it was interesting that you mentioned that academia, because I had gone to college, and I mentioned to a friend earlier that I learned nothing about finances or how to handle my business finance-wise in college. And I think it's interesting that a lot of the basic skills you need to run a business of any sort are not really taught in academia.
I guess that's true now. I haven't been in academia in a while, and so maybe things are changing. I don't know. I know at Yale, they had started addressing that and bringing in speakers who talked about business end of music. Yeah. I remember the woman said, first thing she said was, all of you need to learn secretarial skills and learn how to temp.
Whoa.
And I was harsh, right? She said, maybe 2 of you are going to go to work full time. The rest of you need to learn how to temp, so you'll have ways to, pay your rent in between gigs. And I was like, no way, I'm never going to be temping. And sure enough, I did wind up taking class. I actually took, a course to learn how to do admin work so that I could temp.
Well, there's nothing wrong with getting extra money here and there, temping, waitressing, whatever you have to do to make ends meet and to move forward so you can create the career of your dreams. And here's the interesting thing that I think come up a lot in my show is that I think a lot of people build a business or go into business for themselves, whether it's being a musician or some other type of entrepreneurial type of career, and they don't realize that it's not going to be overnight. It's going to be something that's going to a long process and a lot of effort put in before you start seeing the fruits of your labor.
Right. And then it's cyclical as well. There are times when I was absolute full-time entertainer for 10 years. And I was very proud of that. But then things changed, the economy crashed, and I did have skills to fall back on. Now, I do think it's important to maybe find something that you like as your second, as your fallback job, and something that's quick. Which is where I think, for other ideas would be like to learn a second language and be able to coach and things like that. If you're bilingual, you can get higher pay. There's just more open to you.
Yeah.
Any kind of second career thing that just doesn't suck your soul. I do find temping and working in the corporate world. I try to find, if I do it, I try to go into smaller places because I just hate the corporate world and I find it very soul sucking, but I'll do it if I have to. For another thing is I'm starting to, look at teaching and coaching and trying to share what I've learned and make that my second stream of income because that I'm passionate about. And I think I can really help people.
Yeah. So that's where in the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned how important having a education is just for that very reason, because there will be times where your life is cyclical. Things aren't going great and you will have that fallback if you have that education behind.
Yeah. People want to see the degree. They still do. Yeah. I do think it matters.
Yeah. Why did you choose Yale in particular as a...
I got a scholarship. I was actually at a different school, Hart School of Music, in an artist diploma program. And it was that was actually a really great program. All we did was perform and it wasn't very academic. And that was where I really learned about opera, how to put opera on its feet, how to wear the clothes, the costumes. Had a wonderful director by the name of Dorothy Bishop. She passed away, I guess about 8 years ago, but she was from New York City Opera. And Yale came through looking for people because they had started a new graduate program. I guess it wasn't that new, but it had been around maybe 10 years. And I just sang for them because I was, first of all, I wanted a degree from Yale. Mm-hmm. And there was a wonderful teacher there, Doris Cross, who I worked with. And I was just ready to get with a strong teacher. Addie was more of a coach and an acting coach, but my voice, I was still having trouble. And they gave me a scholarship when they heard me, and they were very encouraging and thought I had a major talent. And I just felt it was time to move on. So I left Hart, which was actually really sad because I loved Addie. I just thought I loved everything I learned from her. And she put me in the leads in 4 operas, which was priceless because I was very young and that wasn't going to happen in the real world. Fell on my face and she helped me get back up and I, cracked on high notes, learned how to sing with an orchestra, all that stuff. Stressful stuff that you don't want having that experience being at the Met or, getting thrown some huge gig and you're not ready. So then I went to Yale and it was really great. I enjoyed every moment of it. Yeah. And I've kept up with my buddies and a lot of them are doing super well and having major careers. And my best friend is in Europe, in Paris, got married and had a little girl, and she sings contemporary opera over there. She's done some amazing stuff. My other best friend from Yale is now on the Yale faculty.
Wow.
She's teaching. Yeah, Janet Beatty. She's teaching now.
Well, maybe that's a place you could end up, since you want to teach. Perhaps that's where you end up teaching in the near future.
You never know. But I love New York, and I kind of envision having my own teaching studio here in the city. Mm-hmm. But I like helping people with shows. I'd really like to help people put together, because I have put together shows in so many different venues and for so many different parts of the industry. That's what I feel like I have to offer that's unique. Yeah. Because I've done everything from put together a classical recital to Sunday brunch thing on a ship to all of a sudden a huge pop opera show. I know how to do the costuming and I had to put together all quick change costumes on stage for my current show, the Dozen Divas. Mm-hmm. I'm still learning wigs because my wigs they need to be restyled every week. And I don't have the finances for a private wig stylist. So working on that and just learning, what is going to keep an audience, especially in the world of cabaret and nightclub work, how to hold an audience. There's kind of a little wave to a show. Yeah. Bringing up and down and here and there. And I find people love to sing ballads. And I find so many shows just way too ballad heavy. I guess because people love to sing ballads. I mean, even in competitions and stuff, everybody goes in with a ballad. But what keeps the show moving is up-tempo and funny and exciting, and then throw in a ballad.
Yeah, and I'm guessing in this techno gadget age that it's become even harder to hold the attention of the audience.
Oh my God. In club, I haven't done so much this year, but for a few years I was doing heavy duty gay clubs and, they're just texting but a lot of, I would do really fun stuff. So even if they were texting, they were usually paying attention. Sometimes I'd call them out, and they'd laugh. But it's so loud and there's so much going on. But you can usually feel when you have their energy. But I would do this pop opera diva thing where I came out in this gorgeous costume with a tiara and I sang a disco version of Nessun Dorma, and they would just go crazy. But then I'd have to go, 2 more songs and keep their attention. But at Splash, I had 2 go-go boys. So I learned that trick early on. And then I took the show to Joe's Pub. This is my pop opera show. Then I took it to Europe, and I always had go-go boys. That was just I had 2 pretty boys on either side of me, and the audience, the gay audience would pay attention. They got tired of looking at me. They started looking at the boys.
That helps for sure, having some handsome guys next to you.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell our audience what's new for you. I know you're up for a nomination. What else is new? Where can the audience come watch you perform?
Well, the Dozen Divas Show, I was actually telling you the story at the beginning, and then we got on a tangent. It's been wonderful talking to you. But I did want to say an important thing, which is the whole thing that got me in the lookalike stuff for doing an impersonator show, which I like to think my show is a little bit more than that because it's got a New York edge and there is a theme, which I'll tell you in a minute. But when I was working at Splash, I used to wear my hair up in a bun, and I put on my reading glasses, and people were calling me Sarah Palin. And this was in 2008. I didn't even know she'd been nominated. I was like, what? And I was on Chips a lot, so I wasn't in touch with much on land. I started watching her, and I was like, oh my God, this woman is crazy, and she's such a character, and I can look like her. And for about 2 years, I worked as a Sarah Palin impersonator. So that's what got me into the whole impersonation thing, because there's money in it. And, I went to DC and performed with one of the top Obama impersonators and got on that corporate thing. And I realized it's not the most creative work, but there is a whole corporate lookalike business out there that a lot of people don't see. And so because I had all these contacts with these agents who booked politicos, booked, lookalikes for political parties, they asked me, who else do you do? And then I was like, oh, well, I can do Cher, and I can do it. I just started thinking, and then I just put together this show about 2 years ago, and it really has been an easy sell for me. I mean, these other shows I always had to push and beg and call, but this show has got a natural audience. People want to think about their favorite divas and laugh. My voice, because of all my training, I'm able to sing country and then go into rock and roll and then go into opera. One of the divas that I pay tribute is Renee Fleming from the Met. And I kind of poke fun at her singing jazz because she pretty much sings jazz with full-on opera voice. And it's just fun. I absolutely love her as a singer. And I got an article written about me in Opera News because I did a little parody of her last year singing the Star Spangled Banner at the Super Bowl. So, and it didn't go viral, but it got a lot of hits. And then I got noticed by Opera News, and they did a little write-up of me being a Renee Fleming impersonator. The only one, I'm proud to say.
Yeah.
And then Stevie Nicks I could do really well because I grew up listening to her, and there were just certain divas that all fell into a pocket that, some I'd try and I'd drop because I'd be like, no, it's not me. I tried to do Celine Dion. It's just not me. Reba McEntire, and I'm better with Dolly. But little by little, I built the show and got the costumes together, and I found a producer. And I think the main theme of the show, what I love is that all the women I do, except for every now and then I throw in Gaga, but they're all, women over 50, because I do Bet, Cher, Joan Rivers, who was living when I started. And I had to take her out for a while, but she's back in now. I used to do Mae West. Sometimes I throw her back in. I do Shirley Bassey, whom I adore. I did all the James Bond songs. And then I poke fun of Kristen Chenoweth. But everybody, I guess Kristen's not over 50, but they're all mature women, well-seasoned performers. And I do believe the show has a message that our society is so youth-oriented, and it's especially now with singers, they're just not lasting. They win a competition and they're gone. Maybe Kelly Clarkson is fabulous and still singing, but really can't remember one from, and they're starting to all sound alike. And the women I pay tribute to are all incredibly unique. They've all given amazing things to society, left us with amazing music. They're still viable. Stevie Nicks is still wonderful. She can't twirl as fast. Who cares? I just think, I think it celebrates the mature woman and also makes people laugh. And I think it is a little bit geared towards more of a baby boomer audience, but I have a lot of young ones come and they love the show. And then my dad, who's 83, he didn't know who Stevie Nicks was. And at the end of the show, he said, who was the woman that was twirling? And throwing the birds, I said, "Oh, Dad, that's Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac." He goes, "Oh, I don't know who that is, but that was funny."
Well, we're talking about the Dozen Divas, correct? Live at the Metropolitan Room at the moment? Yes.
About the Dozen Divas.
Yes.
No, I was just going to say the pop opera show I do is called Viva la Diva, and I actually haven't done that show probably 3 years, but I would definitely pull it back out if the time comes.
Yeah, and absolutely what you mentioned there about some of the unique performers of past, it's sad because now everyone sounds serial boxed, and there's no uniqueness. And it's almost like they don't want that in the music industry right now. They want everything to be the same. And some of the even newer performers that people are bragging on being so amazing, they kind of look like all the other...
Right. They all sound the same.
Exactly. So it's awesome to see what you're bringing out, some of the older, amazing performers, and hopefully it will really engage people to want more of that unique, amazing performance and entertainers, and for people to be their unique selves, not copy everyone else.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I found that all these girls that I hear sing, around the clubs, the young girls, if there's a karaoke competition I'm judging or something, they're trying to sound like Gaga and Adele. Those were the two. And actually Gaga and Adele are very unique, unique sounds. But then these kids all start copying them. But that's just normal. I copied Stevie Nicks, back in the day, Linda Ronstadt, Olivia Newton-John, but they were all unique.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Well, everyone who wants to go out there and buy your tickets today, they can do that at your website, correct? DorothyBishop.com or at the Metropolitan.
Well, they can, but metropolitanroom.com and just call and make a reservation.
Awesome.
Yeah, they just call and make a reservation. I guarantee you will have a blast.
I'm looking forward to it. Me and my partner Brian will be there this Friday, March 7th. We're looking forward to it. And the next one, I believe, is May 1st, correct?
Correct.
And then June 5th. So everyone, if you can't get out there this Friday, put it on your calendar to get out there May 1st or June 5th. You don't want to miss it at the Metropolitan Room, metropolitan.com.
Yes, and I just wanted to give the phone number is 212-206-0440. And you can call and make a reservation.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dorothy, for coming on out today to speak to us on Savvy Central Radio. And everyone, to find out more about Dorothy and book her today, go to DorothyBishop.com. And thank you again, Dorothy, for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
You're welcome, Christina.
Savvy Central Radio is proud to present a live interactive series featuring a new mix to business networking and interviews. Our first event will take place Saturday, April 18th from 12 noon to 3 p.m. You'll not want to miss our first guest, Bryn Johnson. Our interview question portion of the event will be concluded by a business networking gathering of light fare and cocktails, where you'll be able to meet new and exciting like-minded business owners like yourself. To find out more, book your free ticket today at bit.ly/savvyevent. That's bit.ly/savvyevent.